All right, so today we are going deep on Matthew 28:19 to 20.
The Great Commission, huh?
Yeah, but we are going to skip the surface level stuff. You know what I mean?
Right, like go and make disciples. We all know that part.
Exactly. So we've got a whole stack of sermons here from pastors all over.
Oh, cool.
And each one is taking a totally different angle on this verse.
I love it.
So we're going to try to unearth some really interesting insight.
I am so ready.
So one thing that really stood out to me was how many pastors dug into the original Greek.
Oh, yeah. The nuances get lost in translation.
Right, like that word apostolos.
Yeah.
Okay, one church, NJ and Waymark Church, both talked about this. They said it doesn't just mean go. It's more like being sent.
Well, on a mission.
Yeah, with a purpose.
It's like an athlete, being sent onto the field to do their thing.
Totally. So it's not just casually mentioning Jesus to someone in line at Starbucks.
It's way more intentional.
Right, like you have a specific role to play in God's plan.
That's a cool way to think about it.
Right. But then Boulder Mountain Church, they had a different take.
Oh, yeah. What was theirs?
They say go is more like as you go.
Interesting.
So it's more about integrating discipleship into your everyday life.
Yeah, those little interactions we have throughout the day.
Exactly. You don't have to be on a stage to be a disciple maker.
That's a good reminder.
Right. But then we've got Community Co-Church taking a totally different approach.
Oh, really? Tell me about that one.
They really emphasized inclusivity.
Oh, nice.
They're all about welcoming people who doubt, people who are still figuring things out.
I love that.
It's about creating a space where people feel safe to ask questions.
That's so important.
It is, especially these days when everyone's got to have all the answers.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
So now let's move on to another hot topic in this passage.
Okay, what's next?
Baptism.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one.
Always a lot of debate about that.
I'm curious to hear what these pastors had to say.
Me too, me too.
All right, hit me.
Okay, so Radiant Church JXN, they had this interesting analogy.
Let's hear it.
They compared baptism to pickling.
Pickling.
Yeah, pickling, like cucumbers.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So they focused on that Greek word baptizo, which means to immerse.
Right.
Just like a cucumber gets totally submerged in brine.
To become a pickle.
Exactly. They say baptism represents a total transformation.
Wow, I like that.
It's not just a sprinkle of water.
It's full immersion in Christ.
And a radical change from the inside out.
Powerful imagery.
And then we have Risen Church, and they connect baptism to Christ's victory over sin.
How so?
They talk about the Greek word sarx, which means our flesh, our human nature.
Okay.
So they see baptism as this declaration of allegiance to Christ.
Like you're choosing to side with Christ's victory over sin.
Exactly. You're publicly aligning yourself with that victory.
It's like joining his army.
Yeah, that's a cool way to put it.
So you've got pickling, spiritual warfare.
What else? What else?
Oh, and Vibrant Church. They focused on baptism as a burial of the past.
Right. It's a public declaration that you're leaving your old life behind.
You're starting fresh with Christ.
Wow. 3 very different images, all about the power of transformation.
It's amazing how much depth there is in just this one verse.
I know, right? And we're just scratching the surface.
I'm ready to go deeper.
Let's do it.
So One Church NJ, they really took us back to the early church.
Oh, yeah, the time of the apostles.
Right, and they were really emphasizing how those guys were literally sent out.
Yeah, to spread the gospel.
They faced some crazy hardship and persecution.
It makes you realize the Great Commission wasn't just some idea for them.
It was their life.
Yeah, and they risked everything for it.
Makes you think, huh?
It does. You know, we complain about driving across town for church.
And they were trekking across continents.
Right, facing who knows what.
Wild animals, robbers, you name it.
And Radiant Church JXN, they had this interesting point about baptism in the early church.
Tell me more.
Apparently, they used to baptize people right away when they converted.
Wow, like no waiting period?
Nope, straight into the water.
That's so different from how a lot of churches do it today.
Right. Now we have classes and all sorts of things.
Makes you wonder how those early Christians would see things now.
It does. It's like, are we overcomplicating things?
Maybe.
It's good to re-examine our traditions, you know.
For sure. Always good to go back to the source.
Speaking of modern times, North Anvil Bible Church. They had a really interesting take.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
They talked about how real societal change, it doesn't come from politics.
Or social pressure.
Right, it comes from the heart.
From genuine transformation through the gospel.
It's not about changing laws, it's about changing hearts.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Especially in today's world. where everyone's trying to force their views on others.
It's like, hey, let's focus on the real change.
The change that comes from within.
On Waymark Church, they talk about the Apostle Paul.
Oh, yeah, he was a powerhouse.
They were highlighting his resilience, his commitment to the gospel.
Even when things got really tough.
And they pointed out how his Roman citizenship actually helped him.
Really? How so?
It allowed him to travel more freely to navigate the Roman Empire.
Wow, so God was using even his earthly circumstances.
You spread the gospel, yeah.
Who would have thought Roman citizenship as a tool for evangelism?
Right. God works in mysterious ways.
It's encouraging. Sometimes we think our circumstances limit us.
But God can use anything.
Any background, any situation.
To accomplish his purposes.
So cool. Now, a lot of these pastors also connected Matthew 28:19-20 with other parts of the Bible.
Cross-references, I love those.
Me too. They add so much depth.
Like Boulder Mount Church connected it with Acts 9 and 13.
Those are the chapters about Paul's conversion and his missionary journeys, right?
Exactly. And they use those to highlight the global scope of the Great Commission.
It's not just about reaching our immediate community.
It's about reaching the whole world.
Every tribe and nation.
And Nimble.Church, they brought in Acts 2.4247.
That's the passage about the early church community, right?
Yes, and they used it to emphasize the importance of community in discipleship.
We're not meant to do this alone.
We need each other.
To support each other, to encourage each other.
To hold each other accountable.
And a few pastors, like North Anvil Bible Church, they brought up this concept of dual citizenship.
Oh, yeah, from Ephesians, right?
Yeah, we're citizens of heaven and citizens of earth.
It's like we're ambassadors.
Representing God's kingdom here.
And a responsibility.
And a privilege.
It is. It really is.
And this idea of representing God's kingdom, it led some pastors to bring in other voices.
Like Christian thinkers and writers.
It's always interesting to hear those perspectives.
Yeah, it can really shed new light on things.
Like Risen Church, they brought in Tim Keller and Dr. Michael Heiser.
Oh, wow. Big names.
They used Keller's insights to address common misconceptions about Christianity.
And Heiser helped them understand baptism in this cosmic battle between good and evil.
Whoa, that's intense.
It is. It takes baptism to a whole new level.
It's not just a ritual, it's a declaration of war.
Against the forces of darkness.
It's amazing how these different voices can enrich our understanding.
It's like the conversation about faith, it never ends.
It's always evolving.
We're always learning and growing.
And discovering new depths of meaning.
And that's what makes this deep dive so exciting.
We're not just rehashing the same old stuff.
We're exploring new territory.
Challenging our assumptions.
And discovering the richness of this passage.
Speaking of which, I'm ready to hear more about those analogies.
Me too. They were so creative.
They really brought the Great Commission to life.
Let's dive back into those.
All right, those analogies, they really stuck with me.
Yeah, which one was your favorite?
I think the poker one. From Abundant Life Church, Eagle River.
The all-in concept.
Yeah, it's like you got to be fully committed.
No holding back.
Right, no playing it safe.
It's a high-stakes game.
Eternity's on the line.
That's one way to put it.
And then that IKEA analogy.
Oh, yeah, from Shoal Lake Baptist Church.
Trying to live a Christian life without God's guidance.
It's like assembling furniture without the instructions.
You end up with a wobbly table and extra screws.
Exactly, and you're frustrated.
And you probably gave up halfway through.
But with God's guidance.
It all comes together.
Beautifully.
So that you actually enjoy the process.
It's not about restrictions, it's about having the right blueprint.
I like that.
What about the deep-sea fishing trip?
Oh, yeah, Highest Praise Church.
They weren't afraid to talk about the hard parts.
The storms, the doubts.
But they also emphasized the reward.
The incredible catch.
It's worth the journey.
Speaking of journey, Northgate Church, they had that power outage analogy.
Oh, tell me about that one.
They said, imagine being in a house with no electricity.
Everything gets harder.
You're fumbling around in the dark.
Can't see anything.
And they said, that's what it's like when we lose our connection to Christ.
We lose our power source.
We're running on empty.
We can't fulfill the Great Commission like that.
We need to stay plugged into Jesus.
He's our source of strength.
And guide.
And speaking of strength, remember the fireman analogy?
You go, we go.
Harvest of Hope Christian Center.
They really highlighted the importance of community.
We're not in this alone.
We have each other.
To support each other.
To encourage each other.
To celebrate victories together.
And to pick each other up when we fall.
It's a team effort.
The Great Commission.
It's not a solo mission.
So, wow, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. It's been a whirlwind.
So many different interpretations.
So many different approaches.
But one thing's for sure.
What's that?
Matthew 28:19-20.
It's a powerful call to action.
It's a challenge to each of us.
To step out into faith.
To make a difference in the world.
To be the hands and feet of Jesus.
So, as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay, I like where this is going.
If Matthew 28:19-20 is a call to action,
What's one thing you can do this week?
to live it out in a fresh way,
Maybe reach out to someone who needs encouragement,
or volunteer your time,
or share your faith with someone.
whatever it is, don't just let this be head knowledge.
Put it into action.
Live it out.
Make a difference.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring
Keep questioning.
and keep diving deep.